So from this point, we have studied what the jobs are that a noun does, and we've done a little introduction to what verbals are. And so we're going to spend most of our time in this first section of the mastery grid talking specifically about gerunds, because gerunds are verbs that end in ing and they act like a noun, which means they can do those iPods jobs: indirect object, predicate noun, object of a preposition, direct object, subject, and a positive. And so the first step of this I would do is go through the sentence and look first for, we know that they're verbs that end with ing. So find the word that ends with ing. So in this case, it's writing. And from that point, I would go through the process that we always do. Eliminate phrases, look for the subject, look for the action verb, ask what kind of action verb it is before you look for your complement. So I would say you're going to heavily rely on using your notebook to help you identify some of these, because we don't expect you to know all of this yet. We expect you to use your resources to help you. So the directions tell you to underline the gerund in the sentence, then identify the function or the job that it's doing in the sentence. Okay, and so we're going to use the same abbreviations that we've been using, and you'll see the only one you really don't have to worry about in this section is appositives. So we're going to do 5 together, and then your job will be to finish the rest of this, and then you're going to go back into the mastery grid and click the exit ticket, and the exit ticket's going to ask you what was the gerund in number 2, and what job was the gerund doing. Okay, so make sure that you take your time and do this. There's no race to get this done. It's more important that you do it well and you take your time and you understand it. So the first sentence says, my favorite pastime is stargazing. So I would look through this sentence and find the word that is a verb. To stargaze is a verb. When I end it with ing, it becomes a gerund. So I'm going to look to see, are there any phrases in here? I don't see any prepositional phrases or infinitives. So I'm going to look for my subject, which is pastime. Favorite describes that pastime. My describes that pastime. And then I'm going to look for my verb, and my verb is. Now, the most difficult part about verbals is sometimes stargazing can be a verb phrase. So if it said something like I or my sister is stargazing, and she's actually the one doing that action, then that would be a verb phrase. But here we have pastime. A pastime isn't a person or something that has eyeballs that could go outside and do stargazing. So in this case, we see is acting like a linking verb, and we know that what follows a linking verb, if it's a gerund and it's acting like a noun, then it has to be a predicate noun. And I could switch that around and say stargazing is my favorite pastime. Okay, so the gerund is stargazing, and the job it's doing is predicate noun. In the next sentence, I'd say, after Dad and I grew tired of shopping, we went to a movie. So I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to look for the verb that ends in ing, and shopping is the gerund here. So now I'm going to go through my jobs. I'm going to look for any phrases that I could get rid of. At first I thought after Dad and I grew tired was a prepositional phrase, but I can tell there's a verb there, so that's a dependent clause. I see to a movie is a prepositional phrase, and of shopping. So if I can say that that's a prepositional phrase, then I know that shopping is doing the job of the object of the preposition. And I really don't need to go through on this particular sentence and figure out any more of that. Our focus today is really just looking for gerunds, identifying them, and figuring out their job. All right, next one. Did you enjoy fishing? So I'm looking for my verb that ends in ing, and that's fishing. So then I go look for my subject, and it's a question. If you're not sure in a question, you can always restate it as an answer. You do enjoy fishing, so you is the subject. Enjoy is the verb, and I'd ask myself, is it action or linking? If I'm not sure, I can always open my notebook to the linking verbs, and I would see that enjoy is not on that list, so it must be an action verb. And then I'd go to my questions. If it's an action verb, I know I'm looking for a direct object if I can answer the question whom or what. You enjoy what? You enjoy fishing. So fishing is doing the job of the direct object. Number 4, teaching is a noble profession. I'm going to look for my verb that ends in ing, and I found teaching. And I'm going to go, I don't see any phrases, so I'm going to look for my subject. And in this case, the gerund is the subject. Teaching is the subject. Okay, and so I really don't need to do any more in that sentence because I figured out what the gerund is doing. All right, on the next sentence, we've got a quote. So when you look at dialogue, you sometimes have a sentence within a sentence. On my essay, my teacher wrote, "You should give careful proofreading more attention." So I'm only going to focus on the part of that sentence that has the gerund in it, which is proofreading, the verb that ends in ing. So I'm just going to look within this quote of dialogue as I look for my subject and verb. I don't see any prepositional phrases, so subject is you. What should you do? You should give. Acts like an action verb. We look at the main verb give to decide if it's action or linking, and give is an action verb. Then I'm going to ask myself, you should give what? You should give attention. And I know that if I have something left between my action verb and direct object, then I'm going to look for an indirect object. You should give attention to what? You should give attention to proofreading. And we've got some modifiers in here. More describes attention. Careful describes proofreading. But my indirect object here is the gerund. Okay, so you're going to continue on, go through the process just like we did. Again, once you find the job of the gerund, you can stop. Don't really worry about going through and labeling the rest of the sentence. When you're done, go complete the exit ticket.